Hey, this is Two Stranger Gamers, and this is still Tristan, but I'm here with another stranger gamer. Ooh, that's a good title. I think I'm going to call it that. Gabe Gerwin. Hello, Gabe. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm wonderful.
Well, good, because I know that you are a Microsoft fan, and there's some good news coming out today about the Xbox One.
Well, yeah, it's interesting that you say that because I've said that I think the PS4 was still going to be my primary system, but
Hmm.
anyway, the elephant in the room that needs to be addressed, obviously, is that Microsoft has basically gone back on all of their DRM policies. It's pretty much going to be playing just like the PS4 now.
Exactly, and I like that. As a Sony fan, kind of against that. I'm not one of those that's like death to Microsoft. I want that
There's a
competition.
lot of them.
Yeah, exactly. And but I want the competition, and now it's literally the games, and then the price point is still kind of there, but it's more about actual content now instead of general policies, which is a good thing in my opinion.
Right, and I think that a lot of people, they said, why don't you just drop the inclusion of Kinect and lower the price $100
Mm.
or whatever? But unlike the old Kinect, which I think really was a missed opportunity, for a lot of games it just sucks. Some
Yeah.
of that might be down to poor development by the software developers because games like Dance Central, of course, work fine. But with all the demos they showed of the device, it looks like it's actually going to be great. And because there's not this black and white Kinect game versus not a Kinect game anymore, it's going to be much more subtle. The features they're using, things like
Like
just
voice stuff.
voice commands, stuff like
Exactly,
that,
yeah. Uh,
which when implemented in current gen games worked fine. Mass Effect 3, for instance, was way, way, way more fun for me than Mass Effect 2 because instead of having to pause to the menu or whatever, um, to order my troops, I just said their name and what I wanted them to do, and they did it, and it
and
worked
it
fine.
actually worked well. Like, see, I
Never,
don't have an
never had an issue
Xbox
with it.
360 or a Kinect, so I don't even experience that in any way.
No, that the voice commands have been excellent, even on old Kinect. It was the motion tracking which
Yeah.
was the issue, and on the new one, it looks like they're really stepping it up. And I think a lot of people are the word Kinect just left such a bad taste in their mouth that they don't want to give this a try. You know uh, maybe that's okay, but I think people are going to be a little bit surprised. I think the new Kinect is really going to actually kind of open up some new possibilities.
Well, then on the flip side, Sony is saying, the Eye, which from what I understand is going to be essentially a Kinect, right? There's no
Yeah, pretty
Move
much.
controller with it or anything. Um, but they're not including that, which
Mm-mm.
kind of dooms the Eye to failure in my eyes, just because, not including it in the package kind of just limits your install base by, you know, huge amounts, even though the
Yeah,
Kinect sold really well for some reason.
it did, and I think part of that was just really good marketing. The whole
Mhm.
"you are the controller" thing.
Yeah.
Well, PS3 and Move, even though it had a zillion good implementations, I think most people looked at it and said, "Oh, it's like the Wiimote,"
Hmm. And
and
people
that's
were done with that by that
yeah,
time.
they were done. I think the Eye. I think it might go down the same path because some of the features that, reading the LED lights or whatever, if it's not going to be in each one, and I think part of that is because they wanted to have all those cheers at E3, it's going to mean that the device isn't going to be used as much as it maybe could. On the flip side, of course, there's still motion tracking in PS4 controller or motion control in PS4 controllers,
Hmm.
which of course there aren't in Xbox controllers, so that'll kind of make up for it. But yeah, I think maybe just from a PR standpoint, they realize people don't, hardcore gamers who obviously they're going after the strongest,
Hmm.
uh, don't want a device like that, and so maybe the combination of them not including that and lowering the price is enough to make up
Yeah,
for it.
exactly. That was part of the plan there too, is that they could undercut. Well, I don't think they knew Microsoft's price point before, but they
Nah,
could
they
lower
said
that
they were very
price.
excited later, but I'm sure that they rewrote that speech a little bit before he went on.
Yeah.
Andrew House went on because he emphasized that. Oh man, that was crazy.
But I'm definitely not on in the camp that says they literally changed their price point right after the Microsoft conference,
There's no
because
way.
there
No,
that could
there's
mean
no way. People would be freaking out.
yeah,
No,
that could mean billions of dollars either way for the company. They would not make that decision within, not billions,
No.
but a
There's no
large
way.
amount of money.
I think what they realize is that, especially with all these other options, they need to get something compelling. And they made a mistake last generation that Microsoft didn't make by pricing, the $599 dollars bit. And I think they realized, even, Michael Pachter, people have issues, with him or whatever, but he
brings up good points every once in a while.
and he said, I think he likes attention, and that's where he gets into trouble. But he said that wholesale, I assume this means what, GameStop or whatever, what they're going to be cost to get the PS4s into their store is about $375. To make it, it's about $325. So even at this price point, without the I included, GameStop only makes about $20 on each one that they're selling, which means they really have to push it. But Sony's making about $50, which isn't bad at all. Of course, I don't know how that's possible though. Except maybe that Nintendo has just reached the epitome of inefficiency. Because when the Wii U launched, it was not selling at a profit, and that console is woefully underpowered. As cool as it is, and I own one and I like it. At $350, it does, and that's the thing. People aren't going to buy it, and they want to make money on it because now they are in a profit again. But it's just, I don't know. It feels like they're really, really stubborn, and because they're Nintendo, people say, "Oh, that's okay." But then you look at Microsoft being really, really stubborn, and because they're, a company that doesn't have this storied video game reputation, people get upset with them. And I do applaud Nintendo for still kind of sticking to what they know and trying to make.
Definitely.
But at the same time, I think there's something to be said. They are lately the least creative game developers out of the big three. That's the way I feel.
Yeah, I think they're keeping to their their franchises.
And people will say, "Oh, you have Halo and Gears," and no one really argues about Sony because they're always introducing new things. But yeah, you have Halo and Gears, but then you also have games like The Gunstringer, and they're bringing in Bastion and games like that.
And just recently, Sunset Overdrive, which looks
and they announced a bunch
amazing.
of new IPs. And the thing I was excited for, besides Star Fox, which I ranted about, the thing I was most excited about was what I didn't know at Nintendo's event, and they let me down. People freaking out, they're like, Nintendo's gonna own, look, it's Mega Man. Okay, I don't think a bunch of people are going to buy a console because one character is included in the fourth iteration of a video game.
Mm-hmm.
Video game that is going to be very good and I'm gonna love, I know, but it's not a system seller.
I'm in that camp where I'm excited and I'm gonna have a ton of fun with Smash Bros, but it looks exactly like Brawl to me. The 3DS one I'm actually a little more on board with because just the art style is a little different, but it looks just like Brawl, and I guess you could argue Melee looks just like Brawl looks just like Melee as well, except for graphical improvements. But I guess it's the law of diminishing returns. But Sakurai promised some kind of new thing instead of a character roster update, and they didn't really show that at E3.
Yeah, and then they talk a lot about afterwards how everything's different. It's like, well, why didn't you talk about some of that stuff during the freaking conference?
They had their press conference that wasn't a press conference.
It's just, it drives me nuts.
Nintendo's a very company.
And I agree with you. I'm really more excited about the 3DS one because, well, we haven't seen a game like that on a portable system. And the kind of funny thing is, a lot of times for people, that's enough. It's that game you love, but now it's on a portable system. At the same time, I think there was something to be said. Brawl really gave us an actual good single-player mode for once instead of, that kind of slapped-together adventure mode in Melee. Brawl had like a 20-hour story that was pretty fun.
See, I enjoyed it, but I forgot what I was watching, but everyone on this video or podcast, whatever it was in agreement that Brawl's what was it called, Subspace Emissary was terrible, and I was like, "Oh, am I out of the loop here?" Because I thought it was really fun.
That mode. I loved it.
And I wanted something more.
I loved how they were slapping together different characters and all that stuff, but it's just they maybe they didn't have this press conference and they just had this video because they didn't want the 2003 reaction that they got of just complete silence, because Super Mario 3D World looks good. It also looks just like 3D Land with 4 characters. Donkey Kong Country, what is it? Tropical Freeze. It's delicious, and it looks good. But everyone wanted Retro to make either Star Fox or Metroid. I was more on the Star Fox camp.
Me too, yeah.
What else did they announce? Mario Kart. Okay, it's got one new feature. That's the thing lately with Nintendo games. With these new, is it that system you love or that that game you love, plus one thing that it didn't have before.
I'm trying to think of anything from Nintendo's Direct that actually. Oh, Monolith Sauce game, which looks.
X.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stupid name. What's with the
It's
stupid
just
names
it's gonna
coming
be
out of?
Xenoblade or whatever.
But that, yeah, that looks exciting to me. But nothing out of Nintendo's Direct except for Smash Bros. Really got me pumped for what Nintendo's bringing, especially since it's bringing it 2014, which is a very broad, release schedule.
Yeah. Um, man, it's just there's one game, Mario, that's coming out at the end of the year, and if Nintendo thinks that that game is going to sell Wii U's, they're absolutely wrong. And the
Yeah,
reason for it is simple. If you look at the 3D Mario games and their sales compared to the new Mario 2D games, the new Super Mario Bros. Wii sold way, way, way more than Galaxy 1 or Galaxy 2. Even though those, I think, are objectively better games,
yes.
it sold more and it sold more systems. New Super Mario Bros. U, which launched with the system, didn't really help all that much, and now this is the 3D game that, probably a better game, but it's not going to move. I don't think it's even going to move as many systems as New Super Mario Bros. U did, or any of the 3D ones. It's just, they're always saying, okay, we just need a little bit more time. It's like
It's going to be
it's like
two
they're
years
living
at
in
the
a
end of
bubble.
the.
They're living in a bubble. They need to release their stuff.
Yeah, it's especially since they're the only ones releasing stuff on the Wii U. That
Yeah,
third-party reel during the Direct was really sad. Like I was sitting
yeah.
there going,
These are
"What?"
the games that you wish were coming to our system.
Yeah,
Yeah, and like you look at Ubisoft, and they always give a lot of support to new hardware.
yeah,
PS4
definitely.
this time around, the Vita got a huge push from them. The DS back in the day did. The 3DS certainly did, and
They're
the Wii U
everywhere.
did. And now they're even saying we need to see the console sell more. EA apparently, a lot of their sports games aren't even getting versions of them
Yeah,
for the Wii U.
well,
And
there's all
you know
kinds of
what
rumors
is? If
surrounding
FIFA
that game.
14 isn't getting a Wii U release, you know what system is? The
What?
PlayStation 2 is
Wait,
getting
wait, wait,
FIFA.
wait, wait, wait. They're still making PS2 games?
It's going to be the last one ever, but the PS2 is getting FIFA 14. Wii U is not.
Wait, wait, wait. Are they not? They're not even making PS2s like the systems anymore,
No, they
correct?
aren't, but they're making the
The
game. And if
games.
you want to
Okay.
hit the panic button, it's on the front of the freaking PS2 right now.
Wow. I didn't even know that, and that's. Whew. I'm not in the camp that's saying Nintendo's in trouble. They have a ton of cash backed up. They have
They
stuff
do.
that they could pull out in case of an emergency. But there's something going on that as I love Nintendo. They're not my primary company. I'm mostly a Sony guy, but I've loved Nintendo since I've been playing video games. I don't like to see them like this. You know what I mean?
No,
Like,
and neither do I, but it's so much of it I think is their own doing. And with the Wii, one thing that they did really well is they sold a lot of systems out the gate. And for me, the Wii was my second system, and it was a
yeah.
system I barely ever turned on, but they had my money because I wanted it. With the Wii U, it's just they're so yeah, the second screen's cool and all, but it just seems like less and less and less makes sense, especially with these new consoles going out. They're in serious, serious trouble.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the other consoles, we've been talking about. We kind of spun off into Nintendo
Yeah,
there, but
we did really.
who do you think? I know it's been almost more than a week, which is an eternity in internet time. But who do you think actually won E3? Keeping in mind or keeping out of mind this recent stuff from Microsoft.
I think the flip flop in itself is something you can point out to say they didn't win because why? There's no way that a company wide decision like this could get made this quickly, and if it did, wow, congrats. But this, I wrote an article for InvisibleGamer.net beforehand, and it was how Microsoft can win us back at E3. And like 3 or 4 of my points were what they just debunked today, or didn't even debunk, what they reverted or reverse course on today. Those are things at E3, when you've got the stage, when you've got the cheering of the crowd that could come, and instead they do it to the silent, well, literally silent internet, who then, have to say, why didn't you do this before? Some people are saying too little too late, which is totally not true. If you look at polls afterwards, you can see it's already
Oh God.
working out for them.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, I felt that Microsoft, except for the policy stuff, kind of won
In
me
terms of
over.
games, absolutely.
Yeah, no, it didn't win me, but it definitely got me thinking. Okay, well maybe I'll get an Xbox One, because yeah, the games looked fantastic. Sunset Overdrive was my number one from that conference, just because I love Insomniac, and the whole Insomniac thing going over to exclusivity for Microsoft is a whole other thing into itself. But
That was weird.
it was really strange because they left Sony to nearly triple their install base, and then they just kind of went to Microsoft, which was kind of weird. But regardless, Titanfall looked pretty good, even though I'm not as crazy about it as other people, and they brought games, which is not something I expected from Microsoft.
Yeah, even though they kept saying it,
I know.
everyone was kind of like that. They're like, "You're not." I think it really was like a two-part conference, and people didn't realize that. The only hint they gave was the timer to E3 immediately at the end of the reveal.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, it was immediate. That's how they ended it, right after Call of Duty Ghosts. Um, but yeah, I thought they had a really good selection of games. I thought I'm still lukewarm on Rise. I think
Yeah, the
I
quick time
think that
events, man.
they're not QuickTime events though. They just look like QuickTime events because they're button prompts.
It
But
doesn't.
yeah, they should make them less intrusive. But it doesn't
Exactly.
that could easily fix though because
Yeah.
they're not QuickTime events. They're like optional button prompts to get more like brutal kills or cool looking kills. But they just need to cool it a little bit. Now, what may be the cause of that is that I guess when you press the B button or something, that's when you get the option to do like a brutal kill. So maybe if you're playing on your own, that won't be highlighted quite as much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure about that game
And
in
who's
terms
developing
of
that
like
game again?
Rise.
No, who's developing it?
Oh, who's got Crytek?
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
I was kind of. I
yeah,
thought
it's
that's what it was,
Crytek.
but
And it went through a whole different like iteration where it was
wasn't it a Kinect
Kinect
game
game.
at
Yeah,
some
Kinect
point?
was first person. It looked terrible.
Okay.
And now I think it looks like it could be good. Now, pure E3 games, Microsoft totally won. But if you're going back to what they announced prior to that, Sony did Infamous Second Son and Killzone Shadowfall, which both look ridiculously good,
Yeah.
as well as Drive Club, which is meh, and Knack, which could be good, but I've heard mixed things for people who played it. I think they're pretty much neck and neck now, and the $100 price point might be the difference.
Yeah.
We'll have to wait and see. I think Microsoft is doing a really, really smart thing in giving away these free games to people leading up to the event, but why stop?
Yeah.
Obviously, Sony's doing it with the PS Plus. Why not just, instead of giving 5 or 6 games every month that only work while you have your account, why not give 2 every month that are yours forever?
Yeah.
It seems to make more
And
sense.
I'm
Or 3, or like an extra one that you can only use if you keep paying. Something like that.
well, on the note of PS Plus, a lot of people, I remember it was a couple days after the Sony conference or a day or whatever, but there were a lot of people, in an uproar over the fact that like in their little presentation, the slide or whatever, it had under the PS Plus features online multiplayer, so you have
Yeah.
to pay now, which
Yeah.
I wasn't really upset about it. If that means I don't have a month where my PSN is just out, then
Yeah.
I'll pay. If
Yeah.
it's cheaper than Microsoft, it's you get the free games. I already have PlayStation Plus. You can literally get PlayStation Plus for cheaper than a retail game, and you could be set for a
Yeah.
year. You don't have to buy
Absolutely.
any games. So I'm not even. That's a non-issue for me.
Yeah, it's not really an issue for me either. And I think it's kind of ridiculous that people are making that any sort of talking point, although it hasn't freaked out anyone really because, Sony can do no wrong and they're, the return of the Messiah. But,
Well, for so long, Sony fans held that over Microsoft fans. That hey, we got our free internet. So
yeah, and
it's just
my thing was always, okay, come back to me when your user interface doesn't suck, when you can talk to someone playing a different game, and when third-party games perform better. But now that Sony seems to be fixing all 3 of those issues, it has me thinking that's going to be my primary system. Now, I still am getting an Xbox One. I have pre-ordered one before all of this because I love Halo. Mostly because I love Halo. But there are other games for that system I really, really like. As a games journalist, I feel like it just makes sense for me to have one, too.
Yeah, definitely. And I wasn't even, in the camp. I enjoy Halo. It's fun, but that's not that's not why I would want an Xbox One. But I think with E3, they show me a reason why potentially down the road, even with what they even with what they showed at E3, and then what could come down the road, that there's a reason for me to own an Xbox One, which is not something I expected to feel from Microsoft.
Yeah, and I thought it was really random today, just Wednesday, to announce something like this, but better late than never, I suppose. And they have a ton of time. They have months.
Yeah.
Months and months and months to build their reputation back up. Now, some of the stuff didn't help. On Facebook, like, I think the day after E3, they had this douchey-looking kid on a Toys R Us ad on like, with a suit and tie and slick back. Like, he looked like a villain in a Disney movie, pointing to, like, the Xbox One. Like, pre-order the Xbox One now, and every comment was, how about no, or whatever, and it's like, well, you brought that on yourself.
Yeah.
But...
Well, I think what we took away from it all is that we need to worry about the games and not the policies. As you know, I don't know if you saw
at least now we
stuff.
can, because before I think we couldn't.
Yeah. Well, that was a good little talk, and I think that that about wraps it up. That was just a lot of tangents, but that's what Two Stranger Gamers is all about. Thanks for being here, technically.
Yeah, no problem.
Gabe.
Hey, Gabe's pretty cool. You should check out his stuff at invisiblegamer.net and techheads.me, and follow him on Twitter at GamingAngelGabe. Also follow me on Twitter. I'm cool, at TheGameOfNoLife. No big deal. Also, enjoy the rest of this awesome GIF. I say GIF, deal with it.